Welcome to Engaged Travelers. Thank you for following our adventures. We recently spent about 7 weeks in Europe, and we want to tell you a little bit more about it, answer your questions, give you some tips. So we'll just jump right in.
Yeah, so one of the first things that maybe you might be thinking is why 7 weeks? And 7 weeks aligned with the time we wanted to take off. We wanted to get the heck out of northern Michigan in the cold, as a lot of you probably know. And so that's why we chose that time frame, and the 7 weeks just worked out for us. The places that we decided to go are places that either we've been to before but wanted to explore a different region, or new countries altogether that we wanted to see for the first time.
Yeah, and we started in Lisbon, Portugal, which was a new country for me. Fran had been there before. We only spent a couple of days there. The weather was a bit rainy and windy, as tends to be this time of year in some places. So, but we did get out. We saw a photo show. We did a tour through the city on a covered tuk-tuk. So, yeah, we did experience Lisbon in kind of a quick way, including wines and food and everything that Lisbon has to offer.
Really interesting thing about Lisbon, though, a lot of people don't know, is that it's one of the oldest cities in all of Western Europe, even older than Rome. From Lisbon, we were excited to be able to travel to our next destination, which was Nice, France, the southern part of France, actually part of the French Riviera. We were very excited because that was the first stop we were going to have, that we were able to really settle in and start our work, explore, life balance at that time. We were there for almost 2 weeks, and we saw some wonderful museums like the Matisse Museum, the Marc Chagall Museum, saw some ancient ruins actually, and were able to eat really good food and found a little tiny wine region that we had never heard of before that we were able to explore and taste some unique wines.
And we took one of our weekend opportunities to hop on the train, and we did 3 different countries in one day. We started in France. We went to Monaco, the Principality of Monaco, the second smallest sovereign nation in the world. And then we went back into France, had a fantastic lunch, and then continued on into Italy to the town of Ventimiglia, and got to see the sunset in Italy, and then travel by train all the way back to Nice.
Yeah,
So
3 countries by train, all before dinner. It was pretty cool. Pretty cool.
it was. From Nice, we flew into Morocco. We landed in Casablanca, and we had a couple days there before we got with our tour group from G Adventures that would ultimately take us all the way through Morocco, which was kind of a whirlwind tour. It was 10 days. I think we had one location that we were at for 2 nights. Everything else, we were there one night and
Very
moved
busy.
on. So yeah, it was very busy, which can be hard to connect to a culture and a country. But G Adventure does a great job. Their guides are they're local people. They know the customs. They really love showing people their country and their culture. And so you do get that connection with a group like that. And that's why we chose to do a small group in Morocco, because normally that's not what we do.
Right. And some of our highlights for sure were being able to go on a camel and ride a camel in the Sahara Desert while looking at the sunset. The second one, of course, was being able to take a hot air balloon ride over Marrakesh, Morocco. That was definitely a once in a lifetime opportunity. That was beautiful, that we really appreciated.
Yeah.
From there, we flew into Athens on New Year's Eve evening, and unfortunately, that was the part of the trip that I was not feeling the best. So I was pretty disappointed I wasn't able to experience some of the things I wanted to experience for the first couple days we were there.
Yeah, and we got to all the sites. We took our weekends again. We took a long weekend to Santorini, the famed island with whitewashed buildings and the blue dome churches. We discovered some great wines, a very unique way of growing the grapes on such a windy and volcanic soil island. So
Yeah, so instead of being in a line like a regular row of vines, they are actually weaved into a basket, which is, I think there's only one other place in the whole world that grows their vines that way.
So very unique, and some great wines. Finished up our time in Athens by checking out the old neighborhood that I used to live in. I lived there about 40 years ago, and obviously things have changed over 40 years. The Acropolis hasn't changed much, but certainly the apartment building that I lived in isn't there anymore, and where I used to hang out is all like glamour shops, Prada and Rolex and things like that. So from there, we went on to Istanbul. Whether you call it Istanbul or Constantinople or Byzantium, whichever culture or civilization you identify with, Istanbul has an extremely rich history. Just an amazing city, chaotic, 16 million people, but cold, a little bit rainy sometimes, but
Probably the most interesting city we've been to, wouldn't you agree?
it's
Yeah.
definitely one of the most interesting places we've been to.
So that was a quick lowdown of every place that we traveled in our 7 weeks. And when you take it all and look at what the highlights are, or the things that were the disappointments potentially, I think one of the things that we realized is that one of the highs, of course, is just being truly grateful that we have the ability and capability to travel the way that we do.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, travel isn't always magical, but it's still very meaningful for us, for sure.
Absolutely.
So now we get into the video where we're answering questions that all of you submitted, and we appreciate that you did that. And we're going to do this very quickly. So the first question is, what created a challenging day, and how did you cope? Well, for me, just like I've already mentioned, the most challenging days for me were when I was not feeling well. And how did I cope with that? Well, I had to realize that I needed some rest, and I needed to maybe miss a few things so that ultimately I could get better, so that I could continue the traveling the way that I wanted to, being healthy again.
And for me, just we're getting older, and there's going to be more limitations physically that we're going to have to deal with. I did have to deal with that a little bit on this, and same solution.
Yep.
Just slow down a little bit. Realize, be grateful that we are where we are, and we can do this kind of travel, and don't worry about missing some things. Just go at the pace that you can go at.
Yep.
Yeah. We get asked often about this, and that is, how do you pack? How do you pack for such a long trip? Well, we don't pack for long trips. We pack for 5 to 7 days. That's what we plan for. We make sure that we have access to laundry facilities, so that we can, we mix and match outfits. We only bring a couple of pairs of shoes, make sure we have comfortable shoes, and, wear things, maybe a couple of times before you have to wash them. Yeah.
For sure. Next question was places we wish we had more time in. Well, for sure, the southern part of France. Nice and the French Riviera in general is absolutely beautiful, and we would love to have been able to spend more time, or maybe go back and spend more time. The weather is really a wonderful thing to experience, especially in the winter time. I would also add on to that the country of Turkey, because even though we were in Istanbul for like 6 days, because we were working also, we didn't really get a chance to leave the city and go explore other parts of the country that has so much historical significance as well.
For sure. Another common question, how do we work while we're gone? Well, we're very intentional again about our accommodations, in that we make sure we have good Wi-Fi, make sure we have good workspaces to work from. We're both working at the same time. We have to deal with the time differences and things like that. So we have to rearrange our schedules. We don't have evenings to relax. We do our relaxing and stuff in the mornings before we work. So, and along with that comes, how can you get your employer to let you, well, if you're working remotely, or if you have some sort of occasional remote work relationship, you have that trust with your employer. You're basically just extending that for a little bit longer time. You have those conversations of what to expect while you're gone, and maybe they'll okay it. So
perfect. Next question we had is, give us some tips on being American while traveling abroad. And the first two things that come to mind is trying to learn a little bit of the local language. And you don't need a lot. Maybe some words such as please, thank you, where's the restroom? And for me, of course, is this vegetarian? That's a thing I try to teach myself in every place we go. In addition to that, it's very important to learn about the cultures and do some research ahead of time at what the cultural norms are there. And then when you're there, understanding the cultural norm and respecting it for what it is.
Yeah. That includes like tipping culture. What's the standard tip, or is it acceptable to blow your nose in public? In Turkey, it's not. So
that was interesting.
So we get asked, of course, about the language barrier. Like Fran mentioned, you learn some basic phrases. Google Translate certainly helps, especially if a menu or something isn't in English, which not all of them are. If you're going to a local place, some of them don't cater to English speakers. So it's great to have.
And one thing on Google Translate, if you're not familiar, is it has the video and photo component. So if you're in a museum and everything's in a different language, you can take a picture or just hover your turn your camera on, and it will translate it on your screen to what the English version is. So that's pretty cool. Or menus, that works out great for menus too.
Yeah. And nonverbal communication, pointing, smiling, just being kind and patient goes a long way to overcoming them not understanding you and you not understanding them. So, and that can be frustrating, right? But no, it's as frustrating for them that they can't understand you as you are frustrated that they don't understand what you're trying to say.
Right.
So,
and I would add on to that too, that understanding that even if you're traveling abroad in a place that English is not the first language, most of the time people will speak English because that seems to be the universal language for traveling and tourism. So I wouldn't really ever be concerned about not being able to talk or communicate with somebody pretty much wherever you go, especially in the bigger cities.
yeah. Okay.
So the next thing that we're going to do is talk about our favorite things that was asked for us. And we have not talked about this together ahead of time. So we have our answers, and I'm excited to see what you picked, and we'll see if they match or not.
see.
So the first
Okay.
one is, what was your favorite place that we visited?
The favorite place was Nice. Absolutely.
Okay.
The weather, the food, the pace. I loved everything about it.
I said Nice, but I actually specifically said the French Riviera because that whole area that we picked. So we're right. So we picked the same thing there. So what was the next one?
Favorite meal. Your favorite meal.
My favorite meal, and I have a feeling it's going to be the same as yours, was the lunch we had in Menton, France. It was, like I said, a Michelin recommended restaurant, but that's not necessarily why it was. And what was interesting about this restaurant is that it was an Argentinian chef that was doing fusion Italian cooking in France. And so that was my favorite meal. We had some great empanadas.
Oh, yeah.
And I had some homemade tortellini pasta that was superb.
And the braised short ribs were incredible.
Yeah,
So that was my favorite meal.
I still
by
think
far.
about that meal
Yeah,
now.
yeah, that's great. That's great.
The next one was, what was your favorite wine moment?
My favorite wine moment was Santorini, the winery that we went to, where we got to experience, because we had heard about the vines, but they had many of them growing there because they had a small vineyard at the winery, and just to see the vines, and then see the history of wine on Santorini, because the winery that we went to had a wine museum with a cave that
cool.
you walk through and everything.
Cool.
So that was my favorite wine experience.
Okay. That's a good one, but mine was different. Mine was just exploring the Valais region that we talked about in Nice, France, because that was just something I had never heard of before. And I really loved the idea that it was right in the city or just outside of the city limits, so you could take public transportation and didn't have to worry about driving or getting a taxi. You could take a bus and go, and then you get dropped off, and you're at this beautiful winery tasting these wines that we had never heard of before. So that was super cool.
Yeah, that was cool. That was cool. Our next thing is, what was your favorite picture and the story behind it?
Okay, so my favorite picture is the picture that we took of us. Well, we took a few of them, but it was on our anniversary in Santorini. So it was 19 years since our first date. And it was really emotional for me because I thought, I can't believe 19 years later and we're able to travel and we were able to celebrate each other in Santorini. So we have a lot of different pictures that mean a lot to me.
Yeah. On top of that, one of my other favorite pictures was us. It was right before she was struck down by illness. But a selfie we took on the hot air balloon.
Oh yeah.
That was just. It was a really kind of magical time. It was something I've always wanted to do, ride in a hot air balloon. It was beautiful, and that was one of the more meaningful
pictures. And it wasn't
pictures.
as scary as I thought, because I'm not the biggest heights fan. I do stuff that involve heights. I just push through it, and I really wasn't even nervous at all. I was surprised because,
Yeah.
So what did we learn about ourselves? That was the final question, and I was giving it some thought, and I think that both of ours are pretty similar, and I'd say that what we learn about ourselves is, first off, understanding to be grateful about how fortunate we are that we're able to travel the way that we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. I think what we learn most is, like, just slow down a little bit. Even when things aren't going right, plans are changing, or the plan is just blown up, things are chaotic. Just take a moment to take a breath and realize where you're at and be grateful for being able to be there and do what you're doing.
Yeah, gratitude certainly deepens when things are not going exactly the way that you wanted. And understanding that not everything's perfect when we travel, and that's okay. And that's exactly why we travel, because it makes memories no matter what, and it's very important to us. So thanks.
Thanks.